Now we're recording.
Yeah.
All right, man. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Yourself?
Doing well, sir. This is
Good.
my friend Mark Fordham. He's a motorcycle man of mystery.
A motorcycle man of few words.
Yeah, man of few words, but many motors.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
how are you doing? How is the motorcycle thing coming along lately?
Well, not for me. It's not coming along. It went a long time ago. It's the little grandson. He has a go. Yeah. I suppose. Go on.
Are you living vicariously through your children nowadays?
Absolutely, it's my dream being lived through them. Yeah.
Isn't that the best though? Watching the kids light up.
Absolutely, yeah. Great pride. Yeah.
I was looking at your Facebook page and I was seeing
I noticed.
all the pictures and stuff like that. That's amazing. I love how they've set it up for the kids nowadays.
Yeah.
You just can't not have fun doing that. Come on.
Absolutely, it's brilliant. Yeah. Yeah. I still get the urge to want to ride myself, but you know.
Do you have a lot of aches and pains and things of that nature?
Absolutely. Oh yeah, riddled with arthritis in my knees and in my neck and all over.
My buddy was saying that he could still ride, he just can't walk.
Yeah. It's in the morning when it's the worst, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I need a lever to get me out of bed. That's the excuse I use anyway.
Yeah, that's a difficult pill to swallow, but
yeah.
when you're young and you just don't realize those things stay with you.
Absolutely, yeah. It catches up with you eventually.
Yeah, those little nicks and bruises and broken bones, they don't not only not go away, they get angry.
Yeah. It gets an effort.
So how you feeling today, sir?
Yeah, I'm feeling good. Hot. It's really hot over here at the moment.
Where are you in Australia?
Australia. I'm not in Australia. I'm in the UK.
Oh, you're in the UK.
Yeah. So like 20 degrees is hot for us over here. We're used to the rain and misery.
Yeah, you're used to gray days.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Gray and rainy.
But at the moment, we're having a bit of a heat wave, so yeah, it's really hot.
Where are you on the aisle?
South Yorkshire.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's
beautiful.
That's amazing. We're actually on the other end of things right now. It's summer, usually extremely hot right now, but we're having a few days of rain and a little cool weather. It's having mercy on us.
Right, yeah.
So I was so glad that you said yes to this. I noticed that you're a man of few words, but when you do speak, you say some very interesting things.
Interesting, yeah.
Well, I notice you hang around an eclectic group of people. You have a lot of different kinds of friends, a lot of different genres of thought. I think from everything from the motorcycle people to just general populations. There's no real one way of looking at things from your perspective, from what I understand.
I don't know about you over there, but we call that confusion.
So you truly are like the rest of us, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. What about yourself then? I mean, how did you get into this? And I know that's a silly question. You don't get into it. How did you come to this?
How did I get into this?
Yeah.
Oh, my fault. I had an experience, I'll speak loosely with language, we're just having a conversation here. I had an experience when I was a kid, about 8 years old, and I just realized, paradoxically speaking, that there are no things, and that this is existence is kind of it's a show of sorts, but for no particular reason or purpose or meaning. That's part of the prank. The magic of it is that there is no dimension or time or space, and everything that appears to be real is a bit of a show, but a show for no one, and it's impossible to describe. But it was, yeah, it's one of those things where you just get your bell rung, and you spend the rest of your life trying to describe, what had transpired. When it's really, it's really not even, you just don't look at life as a life anymore. It's not in existence as it appears, and yet it's all that there is. It's impossible to describe, so it's impossible to. So that's just how, it just kind of happened. Ironically, on my first prayer, my father told me mentioned something about God, and he had never said anything about God. And I asked him, God, what do you mean? And he said, well, God, God just wants it this way or that way. And I said, really? Why? And he said, well, why don't you ask him? And I said, what? You can ask God? And he said, yes. He goes, I said, how do you ask? You can talk to God? What does this mean? And he says, yeah, you can ask God. And so he told me how to pray. And on my very first prayer, bam, I just realized there was no God. There is no God. There are no things. And it just kind of, that unexplainable, shift in perspective happened. And, that's how it worked for me.
And do you think it's affected your life?
Oh, absolutely.
And what, like when people talk about having a glimpse. Yes,
the glimpse.
The glimpse.
Right. Always, everything has the hashtags on it. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, everything. The whole thing is just one big hashtag.
and then like they come back into themselves and go on this seeking mission.
Yeah.
It's that intrigues me. It's that seeking mission, because it seems like the mission, the seeking, is looking for a language.
Yes, absolutely.
Because you can't know, like what you've just described there to me, you didn't know that when that happened to you at 8. You didn't know how to talk about that. And no one really does.
Right.
Unless they, the same as me, it happened to, see, our class of glimpse is very similar of being in the zone. Because no one's actually in the zone. And
right.
You do some surfing in your younger years.
Well, Mark, can you move your microphone? It's really, you sound like you're in a like a echo chamber.
I am. I'm in the dining room.
It's kind of muffled.
Can you hear me all right now? Yeah, it's crap. It's a Chinese camera from.
I think that's a little better now. Yeah, I think that's better.
It's all right. I'll look up there like that. Can you hear me all right?
I can hear you all right. It does sound like you're kind of underwater though.
Yeah.
But what was that last question?
I forgot. Yeah. Talking about glimpses.
Oh, okay. Yes.
And I'm saying they're very much similar to, when athletes talk about being in the zone.
Yes.
And did you do some surfing in your younger years?
Did I do what now?
Surfing.
Oh yeah, I used to surf. Yes.
So you must have experienced being in the zone, but although
in the zone, yes,
you don't experience that. It's something.
Yes.
You're not there.
Yeah.
Yeah. As a motorbike racer, you're looking for that. You're looking for that, but you can't make that happen.
Yes.
And yeah, right. So that happened to me thousands of times. And obviously, when you're there, you have your best days racing.
Yeah.
But you can't describe that. And it wasn't until later on in my life when I reflected on that, listening to people talk about glimpses and this and that, and I thought, there's nothing new to me. That happened all the time. I was there but weren't there.
Mhm.
And then all you've got is a memory and drunk talking about what you think it is,
Right.
and trying to get back to that. But try as you might, you're just in the way all the time.
Yeah.
The effort and the trying to get into there, it just don't work. You're the one that's in the way.
Yeah. Yeah, that's just the most amazing paradox is, I think it's a strange thing that the individual, even after the shift, you're looking for, you're basically talking about what can't be spoken of.
Yeah.
And this somehow is grounding in some kind of way to the individual, but the individual cannot try to do anything in this regard. Like there's no practice that can get you, or method that can get you back to that placeless place, because there's no you here, there's no there, and all of that kind of thing. So you have this wonderful, or at least I have had these wonderful glimpses throughout my life that out of nowhere, like this is how it works for me. I will see something like almost like a premonition of sorts. I know that sounds ridiculous, but it's a premonition of sorts. Little itty bitty, just mundane, nothing glimpses of something. Very short, very small sometimes, and other times a little more advanced. But these little glimpses appear, and everything with the sight, the smell, the sound, the entire feeling of that moment. I'll see it, and then 6 months later, a year later, it'll occur, and it's impossible to describe because it's so infinitesimal. Yet that was what you saw. I mean, that it happens exactly as you see it,
Yeah.
and so things like that happen, and then a glimpse of how do you say in the infinite, it seems to occur, like at the most random times, like and it could be 5 years in between, it could be longer, it could be shorter, it could happen in a group of success. You're just walking down the street, and then bam, you just brush the infinite, and and that's how it is for me, but you can't, there's no method that you can acquire. I mean, at least for me, there's no way that you can practice this. It just kind of happens. That's how it is for me.
Yeah, I mean, the annoying part about it is that you can't really talk about it, and you sound like an idiot, especially if you're trying to explain to someone who hasn't got a clue what you're talking about, like my wife. I mean, I must have drove her mad. It's absolute rubbish. It really does sound like rubbish. And now we're talking, and you can't explain it to me either.
Yeah.
And I can't explain it to you. Yeah.
So tell me about it. Like, so when did this paradoxical shift happen for you?
I don't know whether it did. That's the truth. I couldn't say that anything happened.
Yeah.
I can't say to you that, one particular day, I was there, and then the next second I was gone. Although I'd like to be able to say that's what happened. How can I? How can I say that I wasn't there? How would I know? If I wasn't there to witness not being there, it's crazy. I was doing a little bit of magic, like with some cards once. I've been reading a David Blaine book, or I think one of his books anyway. I thought, I haven't tried. So I've always been into magic, And so I was doing this thing, and at my daughter, I said, look in my eyes, doing this trick. And all of a sudden, I'm having trouble describing it. It was as if she was looking into my eyes, but it was like someone was looking through a window looking for you. Mm-hmm. And I was somewhere else looking down. And that's as if I weren't there. It was just blank. And what transpired from that was just an overwhelming feeling of love. All of a sudden like that. And from that, I went on some small little, I don't know whether you could call it a spiritual search. I went to church, and there's been no religion in my background, none of that.
Yeah.
Because I thought that's what it was. I thought, Christ, Yeah, Christ.
Right,
I
right.
I'm not lying to you. I actually
yeah.
thought I was the second coming of Jesus Christ. Yeah, I thought, yeah, it's a bit serious. There was that, and obviously the thought of going mad. So anyway, I went to church, thought that's what I need to do, go and get some answers for this, what's going on. And what do you call them? A pastor. He said, let me do a prayer for you, and he put his hands on me. And really, I just felt awkward. He told me that we're all sinners, that I can come to God, or come to God through Jesus and all the rest. And it just, I felt, God, I'm in the wrong place here.
Yeah, right.
And never went again. That was it. I thought that was my religious quest, all in one visit. Done. I got a few books. Is it Gnostic Gospels?
Gnostic, yes.
Gnostic, which started to read a little bit true. It started to resonate. I thought, God, this is it. And then again, that after a time, that just wore out, and I couldn't find, and I didn't even actually know what I was looking for. It was the words and the language to try and describe what was going on. Mm-hmm. And still to this day, nothing. But yeah, absolutely nothing, and still no language for this. None. I don't think I've seen like watched Tony Parsons and Jim Newman, and although when I watch them and listen to them talk, what they talk about or what they're pointing to resonates, I couldn't say that there's no one here like they do.
Yes.
There's still a sense or a feeling of something.
Yes. Well, that's, it's impossible for the individual to say or to accept, strictly speaking, that there's no one here. We're having a conversation. We have sensation, we have sight. Everything appears to be observer and observed. So it's impossible for the individual, but that's kind of the trick of it. The magic trick of it is that the individual, is assumed in this respect, that an individual is observing something, is the assumption that what appears to be the self is an object in time and space, aware of something other than itself in time and space. All motion is relative to that assumption, to that individual. And even assumption is incorrect because there's no one there to assume. And in this way, what in a paradoxical frame of understanding, it is that the individual isn't a source for their own thought. Okay, now bear with me on this, but where on this is what we have is the individual appears to be thinking. They think they have a free will. They think they are observing. They are sensing things. They are living a life as natural as can be. But simultaneously, the individual will search for self. I'm looking for myself. Okay. Well, the self has no definition or description because it cannot verify or cannot lay claim to a foundation in which it is saying, this is the source of my thought. I am thinking this. And so, X, Y, and Z, everything makes sense. Because you cannot know that the object or the source of your thought, the object of the brain, exists objectively. You cannot know that because you are not the object of your brain. You're a conglomeration of many things, apparently, but you can't know any of that objectively because the source of your thought is not coming from an objectively real source, because simply, that is how the nature of things work. You cannot know a thing objectively unless you are that thing. And so because the mechanism of mind comes from this unknowable place. I mean, in an object, in an absolute sense, there is no source for what appears to be a thought, and therefore the thought or the mind is telling a story about a self, or telling a story about a brain that exists in time and space, dimensionality, physicality, all of that, pain, suffering, bliss, the entire story comes from no particular place. There's no actual, object that you can put your finger on and say, this is where my thought comes from. And so the mind tells a story about a brain and time and space, and it culminates in this sensation of you and sensation of self. But it all is predicated off of that lack of absolute, that lack of foundation, in that you cannot know that you are actually thinking, and that you are doing anything, no matter how you look at it, no matter which way you want to observe, or the individual wants to look at it, whether you actually think you're in time and space and are navigating that said time and space. If you're a solipsist and you believe consciousness creates what appears to be reality, or any number of philosophies, it's all predicated on this first unknowable story that is predicated on the assumption that there is a source for your thought, but that source is unvalidatable and unverifiable, and therein lies the whole, self, that whole mystery of, the self observing other. So it's not that there's not a you, it's just that you are not objectively verified in that respect. So it does appear that there is a self observing other, but that is the appearance of the totality of the story, the totality being you and I having a conversation. But there are no two people thinking, there are no two people experiencing existence. It's just existence as a totality expressing itself as the two of us having a conversation.
That was a lot of words, that, Howard, and none of them made any sense at all.
yeah. I've been through this a couple of times.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's just don't apologize. It's just when you listen to these non-duality speakers and they say, there's no one here, there's no one there. Absolutely, I get that. I get that. It makes no sense. It makes no sense, and there's a rejection there in me. I'm a skeptic of everything anyway. I always have been.
Yes.
And I'm skeptical of that. I'm skeptical of the. I don't even know how to put this into words. It's obvious that there's no individual here or there or anywhere. It's obvious. It's a built up. It's a built up thing. It builds up. It's input from an early age. The idea that there's someone here, or to go with that feeling of separateness around 2 years old, whatever.
Yeah.
It's felt, and then over the years, it's put in that you're an individual. I'm an individual. That's this is society. This is the world, so-called world that we're existing in. We're all individuals, and it's supported by the world. So I get that that's bullshit. That there isn't anyone. There is. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't take away the feeling. It doesn't take away the feeling, the sensation at all. No. And that sensation, as far as I'm concerned, is just a collection of addiction. Mm-hmm. Them addictions that you gather throughout your life. Yes. Ideas and whatever, and these habits become what you think you are. Mm-hmm. That, and Now, you can go on courses, you can practice and different things like that, trying to get rid of these things. But what are you then? Someone who's just getting rid of these things, so you're taking on more and more and more and more and more and getting nowhere fast.
Right.
Yeah. I don't do any of that. I don't seek. There's no seeking. There's no need to know, or it's just that when you're having these conversations, and you listen to people like Tony Parsons and all that gang, they sound so convincing that there's no one there.
Yes.
And I'm a bit skeptical of that. I don't think
Yes.
that they feel any different than I do. So,
Yeah, and you know that's the thing. I mean, it's the appreciation of the story for no one and nothing. In that, there's not necessarily. It's like you said, it's a fiction, and so allow the fiction to play itself out. I mean, the fiction is that there is an observer and something to observe. There is a show and an audience, for example, a projector and a screen, something like that. But that is the show itself. The observer observed is the show. So, you know, instead of, for me personally, I'm with you. You know, there's no seeking there. What happens and what appears to be happening simply appears out of nothing and nowhere. You know, it's even to get caught up in your own stories, you know, your own sensations, desires and things of that nature. All of it is not you know, it's gonna continue regardless. So instead of trying to like stop myself from thinking or anything like that, I just look at it like this: there is no one thinking, because you don't know. And again, no matter how you look at this, no matter which angle you want to take, there is no one, there is no absolute or objectively real point or position in where to begin this whole, you know, facade. So instead of trying to look for a, you know, a point of origin or a destination or walk a path of any particular kind, I simply just enjoy it as it appears in the moment. There's nothing before it or after it. And all of these memories and all of these desires for a future or a wanting or a needing, all of that just basically contracts the individual into this idea that you can accomplish something in regards to basically anything. I mean, there's essentially, you know, I would need to ask you questions about how to fix a motorcycle. And yes, you could teach me how to do that. Okay. And within that story of two people, you know, exchanging information, teaching and learning, that will appear to be so. And that you do have to go to school for things. You do have to learn things in order to function in a life and things of that nature. But that has nothing to do with the subject of the fictional self and other. The story itself is not as it appears. So there is a motorcycle. There appears to be a motorcycle. There's a self. There's a guy that can teach me how to ride this thing. You know, hopefully I won't get hurt. Blah blah blah. Sometimes that doesn't work out. But the reality of the situation is, it is not a time and a place. It's not an individual and other. It's not an observer and the observed. So although it does appear that way, the story does appear to be happening in a linear succession of time and events. You know, you got the chain going around the sprocket and this and that. Everything happens for a cause and an effect. But that's the appearance of how existence unveils itself. But the reality is, it's not that it as it appears. So it really is an existence as an appearance, but the appearance doesn't exist as it will unveil. So it's not time and space. It's not cause and effect. It's not matter and motion or dimensionality or any of that stuff. It's not a self looking at other. It simply is the story of that. And it's utterly useless to the individual. I mean, it doesn't. That's why they call it the messageless message. Tony Parsons and, you know, Jim Newman and Andreas Mueller. they call it the messageless message because it really does not have any value to the individual.
No.
I mean, but at the same time, like for myself or perhaps for yourself, you get to this point where you want to know what is, the individual, you want to know what is, and somehow you find out is not is as it appears. And so it's about, it's about the mystery itself rather than trying to make it curve to the self and any idea of like, I want this, and so I want it to be this way. I need something to work for me in a practical sense. No, there is no you, and in order to be practical, the lack of practicality is the point of the pointless point. You don't, it is what it is for its own sake. You have nothing to do with it, but the appearance of you is paradoxically enshrined in this thing that appears to be happening as subject object, but none of that is real. None of it exists.
There is no matter, is there? There's no matter doesn't exist, right?
Nothing.
It's crazy, isn't it?
It's so bizarre.
If you just take a second and think, not that there's any answer to this, why,
right,
or how. These are the questions that you are when you're seeking. You're looking, why is this happening? How does it happen? What's the reason? What's the purpose? And it all collapses when you find out that none of that, this is bullshit. There's no reason, there's no purpose, there's no how, there's no why, there's nothing here. But wow.
Wow. Yeah.
Wow.
Just wow.
Wow. What? Wow. That's all you can say to it. That's it. That's the end, the beginning of the end of this conversation, really. Any conversation, wow. You can't ask why, because there's no answer. I wish there was. I looked for a bit, long enough for why is it happening? If there's no one here, there's nothing, nothing solid, nothing.
Right.
Even science talks about there's nothing. It's all, I mean, what you see in front of you, what you think you see. And I know, like, you don't like the idea of brains and that sounds a bit dark, but it's your brain that your eyes is like a camera, isn't it? It doesn't actually, what you're seeing out there is not what your eyes are seeing. Eyes letting you light, your brain makes up the image. So how do you know what we're looking at is actually what's there? What's actually being seen? What is there? Oh, I can't even put it into words. I sound like.
And that's when you know and that's when for me, that's when somebody is being their most honest, and when it's the paradoxical self is sitting there tongue-tied and completely just awestruck and dumbfounded. It's just, and that's one of that's the most honest moment when you literally cannot express what appears to be, cascading around your immediate experience. It's like, what? There is there are no questions, like you were saying, how, what, why. There is no why. There is no how. There is no what. It's so.
But we want there to be, don't we? We want there to be a why. If there's a why, then there's an answer.
Yeah, and
that's the beauty. There's an answer.
Well, and that's the most difficult thing for the individual. People will ask a question and you tell them, well, there's no cause. There's no cause. This is the effect without a cause. It appears to be an effect, but there is no example of cause. There is no example of any objective reality in that there's a you that has a memory. All of that is baseless and causeless in that it's kind of like a marionette without the strings. You can tell somebody, that you're not doing something, and as long as they think that the puppet has strings on it, You know, something is operating this, something is happening, something is on, for example. But there's no, but no, there are no strings. There is no cause. There is none of that is real. And so, and in that way, there's no on or off, you know, because there's no example of an off. So this is on without an off, you know. So you could say it's on, but without that cyclical, you know, on off, you know, chain of events, that seasonal dimensional thinking, there, you know, that's the beauty of it. There's no off. So this is not an on, you know, there's no non-existence, so there is no existence, you know. And that's how it appears to the individual, when, you know, that they're, you know, you're born, you're living, you're going to die, cease to exist, but there is no example of that. There's just the appearance of it.
Yeah, that's right. It's like I've been asked, you want to say, oh, when this shift happened, and to be honest, I can't say that anything did happen.
Yeah,
it was just like I can't even say it was a realization, because we weren't even looking. I can only say that nothing changed, but everything's different.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense at all.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
Nothing changed, but everything's different.
Yeah.
Yes. I
So
absolutely. Yeah.
As far as this is concerned, does that make any sense?
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. So I still go about my daily chores, doing what I, you know, the demands and expectations that are put on you. You still perform. And nothing's changed as far as that goes. To everybody else, I'm still Mark. You know, I'm this, I'm that, and whatever else. Only there's something behind that knows different. But what that is, I don't know. Probably me, I don't know.
It's so amazing, and to allow that story to play out. I mean, it's not even allowing so much as just watching, and not even watching. You're basically, yeah, you're in a story that just seems to be playing itself out,
and
as it will.
Effort. There's no real effort.
No effort whatsoever. Yeah.
Yeah. Not like there was before. I felt that I was involved.
Yeah.
And now I'm not.
It's truly magnificent, in that respect. That the weirdest part about that story of enlightenment is that there's no, well, you know, for whatever you want to call it, it's in the for me, it seems like the less I'm involved in myself, the less I'm thinking about desire or want or need or any of that stuff. And paradoxically speaking, what simply appears for its own sake. The less I am involved, the more of a flow just kind of happens. Things just start blooming into existence from nowhere and nothing, and without any question or reason or need to want to change it. You know, just allowing this to there is no me, there is no other. This is the appearance of it happening, though not happening as it appears. And or as you said, you know, it's you know, it's you know, everything's the same but different. And you just allow it. The enlightenment part is the paradoxical. There's a lack of you. You're not there at all. You're not even, there's no enlightenment at all. But everything seems to just bloom and be your environment, or what appears to be the story is what enlightens. The entirety of that whole lack of subject object. That's what blooms. You know?
Another is choice and free will. You don't buy into that, do you?
Oh, there's no individual to have a free will.
See, I have an argument with that.
Okay.
Right. Although there's no one there to choose.
Yeah.
There's choice.
Yeah.
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 You
Yeah.
agree?
There is. Yes. Choice appears. Yes.
So, like, when we were racing motorbikes, no one would choose to do that because it's life-threatening.
Yes.
Right? You're playing with fear all the time. And that particular reason is why motorcyclists, Formula One, all that, even horse racing to a degree, all experience that, what we were talking about earlier, the zone. It's because you're pushing fear to the nth degree all the time. Any minute, it could be lights out.
Mm-hmm.
Now, sitting here now, I could think to myself, well, why would anyone do that? Why would anyone do that? You can't do that with a sane mind being frightened, because racing, you can't afford to be. It's he who dares wins. So fear's your enemy. And
yes.
So who would do that by choice? When the majority of people, well, everyone, has that innate fear of death, when that's what's on the line all the time. So why would anyone choose to put their life on the line for that if there's no choice? That's the argument I've got with that. I think there is choice.
So you're saying there is a choice.
Yeah,
there is free will?
Absolutely. But for no one.
Who would have that free will?
I'm not saying that anyone's got it. I'm just saying that choice is made. And that's what I think confuses the issue. You choose every day. There's always choice. How free that choice is. You're only going to be able to choose from what's on offer, right? That's not free choice. Free choice is being able to choose something that doesn't exist, or show me something. Show me something that doesn't exist. Then maybe we can. That's free choice. I'm choosing something that's never been chosen. But you're only choosing from what's on offer. I get that, but you're saying there's no one to choose. I agree with that, but there's still choice.
Yeah.
So does that not?
Yes, within the story of the individual, yes, there is the appearance of a free will and a choice and all of it, and the individual makes decisions. I can relate on as to what you're saying on many levels. Throughout my life, when I was in the Navy, when I was a kid, choices that risk your existence. The character in the story could die. You're putting yourself in situations where, I mean, literally you're hanging by your toenails. And a lot of it has nothing to do with anything you wish to happen. And that's the point of it, that you are on that line where you're outside of it. It literally is, you're putting yourself so far out that red zone happens where a lot of things have to come together in order for you to pull this off. And a lot of it has nothing to do with you so much as you're just crossing that line. And you put yourself in a situation where, like with me in surfing, you can drown very simply, very easily out there. Absolutely. I mean, anything can happen. And it's some of the most, and it's terrifying. It's absolutely terrifying to feel yourself drowning. It literally is horrifying. But does it stop you from doing it? No, because you love it. It's beautiful. I've literally, gotten my stomach pumped and then gone out the very same day. Back because the surf was so good. And it's like, I mean, you almost die, and then you come out, oh my God, how can this be? But then to go back out.
Is that? Have you just touched it there though?
Yeah.
You almost die, and I think with a lot of these sports like hang gliding, rock climbing, all these things, they call them adrenaline junkies.
Yeah.
Is it because the nearer to death,
Yeah.
or possible death you become,
Yeah.
the more that you're not there. And is it
Yes.
that we're addicted to? Is it that the disappearance of that individual, the disappearance of I, and all there is just pure nothingness? And is it that what we're addicted to, rather than the actual activity that causes that? Now, we'll argue about whether there's anything you can do to cause that, or practice or activities that will bring that about. And here we are talking about activities that bring that about.
Right. And there it is. You have this uncompromising actuality within the story of physicality and dimension, time and space, individual and other, where you put yourself in this situation where you're communicating almost with nature itself. You're communicating with existence itself. In that way, it's beyond any kind of prayer or any kind of yoga or something like this. Although yoga maybe is a bad example. I'm just saying, it's beyond any kind. You put your actual, what appears to be physical existence, in the hands of the untouchable, unknowable, unseeable, but constant presence of this conversation with the character in the story and the story itself. And so in this way, I think, like, personally, you get to that spot where everything stops. You're moving as fast as you can go. You're on that razor's edge, and you're about, this is where, if a hair of grass is out of place, you're going down, and this is gonna hurt, or like when I drop into a wave, and one drop, you're teetering on that edge where this is either sink or swim now. I mean, we're facing death, and death of the individual in a physical sense of the story. And I think there is a certain amount of reaching for that lack of compromise. It's that within the capacity of consciousness, and that when you have a shift, the character in the story has a shift, and suddenly we're talking about enlightenment and all this kind of thing. But that is the unspeakable. It's unspeakable you cannot intellectualize it or articulate it. But you can also get that sensation from another vantage point, from the physical, of literally pressing that line to the point where you are putting your money where your mouth is on the character aspect of it, the character story, and what that is and what is happening in that moment. Time will freeze.
Absolutely,
and then everything stops, and you can literally look around. And you're watching yourself kind of from another place, and I think there is something to that. There might be something to that character wanting to go back to that spot. But in the first place, you get there because already as a character that this isn't real. In the first place, you're not really risking anything, and you're putting your money where your mouth is by throwing it all caution to the wind. And you get to that spot, and you cross that line of control, as like, I can't do this now. I've put myself in a situation where it's not in my hands, and I am here now, and this is happening around me, and now everything stops, and you're looking, this is it. There's no subject or object or a person doing something. You literally are at the mercy of the physics involved with the story. And in that physical sense, yes, I think I see what you're saying.
And do you see that? Could you reflect on them times for you when you were surfing and there being no one present? Can you combine that and say, that glimpses and being in the zone, or being close to death, is all the same thing?
Well, for me, I used to get happy, very happy when those things happen. It's kind of weird, and I'm not saying that I never got scared. You get scared, very scared, but it's almost like when you are out of control, suddenly a smile would come on my face, because now literally it's not me doing a thing. I am now in this situation where we really are having a conversation with existence itself now. And there's and existence will, physicality will teach you a lesson. I mean, there's just, you're gonna pay for those kind of things, but you put yourself out there because it's a playground, or it seems to the character like this is a playground. After you've lost the subject, object, dream, dreamer, once you've lost that tether to a foundation, then you want to press that limit. You want to press it. You want to go where there is no lying. There's no wiggle room. It's not. Now this is not a choice now. It's beyond choice, because but you chose to put yourself in that situation to be beyond a choice or a chooser. And so existence itself will, the death is reality of it. I mean, the death of the character is always ever present. And that in some ways, I think for the thrill seeker, there is this want to talk to that non-mass, the lack of a veil. You want to be right there where there is that ultimate truth, the ultimate, the ultimate truth, where there is no denying, what is happening. And I think I see what you're saying in that regard.
See, back in the day when we were doing them things, we didn't know why we was doing it. We was doing it for the pure pleasure of doing that activity. But it's only now that I can reflect and think, I know why I was doing it. It wasn't about the riding of the bikes or the winning, because no one ever actually won. I could only reflect about the story after the event, or people saying, "Oh, you won this race." I've got trophies for races that I never actually remember racing. And it has a whole different. I thank it for doing it, because it's given me that insight into that, and the reason why people put themselves on the edge like they do. And while you're doing it, you think you're doing it because it's being on the edge, and you're doing this, and you're right, you're surfing, or you're riding bikes, this, that, and the other. And we don't actually know the reason. And I think it's that. It's because you come so close to where everyone actually longs to be is.
Yeah.
I can't think of a word to describe it, but I think we all long to be back there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think not being there, you as an individual can't be there. And I think doing activities like we've done and what's out there can bring you to that.
Yeah.
Or not you, to it. Yeah. Every time I was that close to death, I was never really actually close at all. I weren't there. Yeah. And as you say, that time slows down. You can reflect back on that as well and know that time doesn't exist, because when you're, like you say, if you in the midst of drowning or crashing, high speed, to everybody that's watching that, observing that, it happens like that, as quick as that. But to the individual, because of that's happening, time does stop. You seem to disappear until the bump comes,
right?
And then you're really there. When the pain comes, or your lungs are filling up with salt water, then you're there. But as that's going, there is no one there, and there's no time at all. Time just stops. And that is for all them things. I'd sound crazy if I said that I raced motorbikes because of coming close to death, and I loved it.
Yeah, I love it. Yes, it's madness, but at the same time, I remember this I remember a story that I dropped in on this wave, and it was one of those things where I trained all summer for this storm, and I was very young. I was like 10, and dropped in on this thing, and everything stops. This whole thing opens up, and I come out of the other side, and it occurred to me, though, this is the all of what you just said, happened. You're on that razor's edge, all that, there's no subject object. You're going back to that place where there is no self or other, and it's all unexplainable. I came out the other side, and I realized that every moment is that moment, though. I mean, see, that's where it didn't stop me from from putting it to the test every time I could. I mean, I'd still go back out, I'd still do these things, and sometimes you don't have a choice. As far as, I mean, if you want to live, you have to fight, stuff like that. So, and if you're going to survive a situation, you better use whatever you can, until it gets to that place where there is no control. But in from the lack of self and other perspective, all moments are that moment where time freezes, and so it's not so much that I wanted to get there to prove anything. It was more like I wanted to get there because I know this is a playground. I know this isn't as it appears. And, I don't know what's going to happen after, the character dies or whatever that story, however that plays out. That's the mystery of it, but I think in the letting go of any mechanism. Okay. There's or any answer or question, and you just let it rip. And putting that physical story to the test. There's nothing better. I mean, there's nothing more beautiful than that. It's just that you don't have to do it in order to realize. You can, like myself now, I'm in this bed, and I'm looking around. It's just nothing, there's nothing really pressing, nothing that's going to make me feel that physical gamble, although every moment is that physical gamble. We can die at any time, so you don't necessarily need to do these things, but it is fun while you can. It's a playground.
The strange thing is, and this is just what's coming up, is actually when it goes horribly wrong, that's when it feels absolutely right. And yet we spend our lives trying to stop things from going wrong.
Right.
Yeah? I mean, we don't want to put our life at risk. I mean, it's just stupid. We don't do that. We do everything in our might to steer clear of that. And yet what I'm saying and what you're saying, and I imagine many other people would say, is until it actually goes wrong, you can't know really what it's like for it to feel right. Does that make any sense?
Yeah. And that's
when you're at death's door, you're actually for the life, don't you?
Yes, absolutely.
No, it's
absolutely.
An thing, but
it's it's the character in the story putting their part in the play at risk. But it's and it is that terrifying, if I may say, the lack of self, like when or the lack of things, when you do have that brush or that glimpse or whatever you want to call it, there's this terrifying lack of identity, like your identity is dissipated, and suddenly there's nothing to hold on to, and nothing to hold on to, and there's no hand to hold. So there's literally no better, more, next. There's no explanation or reason, and all of that story dissipates, and no hyphen thing literally means the the death of the story altogether.
Yeah.
And but the funny thing about no thing is that no hyphen thing, it is a different subject than nothing in
Yeah.
one word. Nothing and no thing are two separate things. There's two separate subjects there. Now, whether or not you want to believe the no thing is simply another dimension, some kind of non-dimension, or the lack of dimension being, for lack of a better way to say it, a thing. Whether you want to say there is something beyond, this story of immediate experience. The difference between nothing and no thing being separate subjects is fascinating and impossible to articulate. But you get there, you're doing, like, I keep thinking about that Formula One driver, and being on that razor's edge like that, or that motocross guy, the surfer, all those guys putting their characters on that line, and that fear that comes out.
It's the fear that actually pushes you out, isn't it?
The terror, yeah.
The terror of but then once and then that's it. That drops, fear goes, and there's just nothing, and there's just absolute.
Right. And that's it. You go through that veil of terror, veil of fear, as if there was ever anything real in the first place to hold on to or to let go of. So you get into that thinglessness realm where there are no words. There is no way to articulate that. And
the irony
I think
of
you're
it
working
as well.
on something here. Yeah.
And the irony of that is in that, and I've got to call it a moment, although it's not. That moment is when I think, I speak for myself, when performance is at its best. So then you spend most of your life trying to figure out ways and practices and different rituals to try and get to that. Think, right, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to look. I'm going to concentrate on nothing, just a candlelight for an hour every day to try and disappear. So I know next time I'm racing, if I can get myself into that mindset, I'm going to be number one that day. And the problem is with all of that, like meditation and all the rest of it, it's not a mindset.
Yeah.
Mindset is not involved in that. Yeah. If mindset was involved, I would never have raced a motorbike because I'd have been too scared.
Yes.
Of fear itself.
Yeah.
Yeah. People are frightened of fear. That's what I'm saying. We all steer this way when fear's there. It's I'm going to say it's a natural instinct. It is a natural thing to avoid fear, and look for safety and all the rest of it. But fear is where it's all happening. And yet we avoid that like the plague.
Yeah.
Fear, when it goes wrong and you're frightened out of yourself, is where it's all at. That's where it's all at. Although there's nothing there. Yeah. There's nothing. There's not an all at. There's nothing. And that's and yet we're looking for that. We're seeking for that. And yet we're avoiding it all the time because there's a person here. I don't know.
I think you're right. In that that terrifying feeling, yet contradictory, blissful feeling of being across that line of control. So the idea being here that there is a character that has this ability to make up their own mind. Well, okay, yes, the character knows that it's not a self, it's not an individual, it's not really in a place and existing as in time and space. It's almost easier to put your physical life in jeopardy than it is to actually experience the terror of the lack of identity, the lack of self. When you slip into that thinglessness, it literally is terrifying. But then you can surpass these ideas of a reality and the you know, even that you have a choice, if I may, even that you have a choice, you get to that point where there is no choice, and you have crossed this line of any kind of control whatsoever. And what is going to happen regardless of your ability to change it. And you have put yourself in this situation, and here it is, teetering on the edge of the abyss, and you start smiling. You just, I mean, it's like, you know, it's full on. And I think you have an interesting correlation there between the lack of, or the loss of identity, and the gambling with the physical sense of your character. I think there's something to that. I agree with you.
So there are certain situations that can bring it about, but I wouldn't recommend it.
Well, but in the end, though, if you take that, take those two examples, the enlightenment story, or the glimpse, or the shift, or whatever you want to say, of thinglessness, the lack of identity, you take that terrible, that slip from physicality, and then you juxtapose that with that putting yourself in a physical sense beyond your control, and you are now completely, it's not up to you now. You're in and that moment is it's just exhilarating beyond control, but it's also terrifying. And you have this juxtaposed kind of thing happening. But see, my point would be this: that we don't know, we have no control at any point, in any time. There is no choice to put yourself there, because you aren't making a decision. Ultimately, I mean, it appears as if the character has that ability, but because you don't have the objective reality of the foundation of the self, there is no self making that decision to get there. Though the correlation does ring true for me, though. It's an interesting point. I like it, because there's no you losing an identity in the first place. Just like there's no physical existence that's being risked by the self, but it appears in both situations to be unexpressible and happening. But yet, at any time during the character's life, you can die at the drop of a hat. You can die at any moment. You are never really in control. So it is the illusion that there is a control, and there's the illusion that there is a choice. But although I would like to preface that by saying that within that illusion, or within that character of choice, yes, I think you're right. There is that free will of the character to put themselves in that situation. But ultimately, that is, does free will exist for the character? I don't know, man.
That's a strange one, isn't it? Because
it's
like you say, and I absolutely agree with that. We don't know what's going to happen. So that risk is being took perhaps every second of every single day. We just don't know. But the thing that separates what I'm talking about an everyday life, the story, the character, is that you don't take you take it for granted that tomorrow's coming.
Right.
Tomorrow is always on the horizon as far as the everyday character goes, unless you're really morbid and you think, I could die in a minute. We don't live like that. When you're putting yourself into situations like we both had, you don't take it for granted. I'd go out in that race. I didn't think, I might not come back. But there's that possibility. You're putting yourself on that line. And I've had friends that have been killed.
You know what? It occurred to me. Well. It's almost like you're taking away the lack of control from, it's like you're taking the question away and you're answering it, rather than you know what I mean? You're not allowing existence to control when you live or die, you're actually putting yourself, you're actually being proactive as the character.
Yeah.
I interrupted.
I think you have got a choice whether you live or die. You can.
Yeah. Well, and that's a fascinating thing about life. You don't have to live.
No.
You don't have to live if you don't want to.
We say it's all shit and bullshit, and it's not really here, and yet, yeah, fuck that. I'm going to carry on now. I'm going to carry on with this story, bullshit or not, or whether it's a good story or a bad story. Even though I might, be bored with it and depressed by it and all the rest of it, I'm still going to carry on because, hey, listen, who knows? What lies at the end of this line. Yeah, I mean, lots of people don't, but you have always, there is that choice, and I think that there's debate, and there is a debate with choice, free will, and I'm sort of on the pro-choice side. Yeah,
I think it's fascinating in that respect as well, in that the character himself, though no matter how the character wants to look at existence and look at cause and effect and time and space and all of that, if you want to, as a character, shut the story down at any point, you can do this, and it's not hard to die. It's really not hard at all to die. It's amazing that people live as
it's the fear that puts people off, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's really.
Perhaps we'd all go over the cliff together if we weren't frightened of it.
It's not hard. So for me, the thing is, well, why go out, why go out shaking and shimmering and why go out shaking in my boots while I'm sitting on my couch? Why not go out and really enjoy this, while I can, while we are in this appearance, the appearance of an appearance of an appearance. It doesn't even matter. The reality is, the character in the story as Howard decided to push those limits. And in some ways, yeah, you do get those glimpses. And that choice does appear to the character. But it's a semantics point. I think that but it's difficult to articulate. I'm trying to figure out how to, there's no self in the first place, but it's just not a satisfactory answer to what you're saying.
Because there's choice made, but then that implies a chooser.
Yeah.
And we're saying that there isn't one.
Yeah. Yeah. So even to try to answer the question is to try to imply that there is some kind of knowledge in this regard. And really when time and space stop, and you can look around in the middle of just absolute chaos. I mean, it's literally chaos. And everything is right there on the line. And like people will say, your life will flash before your eyes. I've had that happen. Like, when your life flashes before your eyes in a millisecond, that can happen. That really does happen.
Life review.
It appears to happen. Yeah. And that's the thing, though. It's the same with the lack of identity. When you lose your identity, it's the same thing. You see the entire story of the character of life. Just in just a millisecond, it's just gone.
That happened here. That happened without. In fact, I was having a wash, and that exact thing happened. Like the life review.
Yeah.
That happened. And it felt like this, I felt like I was going to die. And it was at that point, then, like I say, nothing changed, but everything became different.
Everything becomes different.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you think you'd make it this far, brother?
No. Every day since that, I thought, well, when,
Yeah.
when?
Would you change anything?
When all this good. No.
I wouldn't change it if I could.
I'm going to argue with myself. I don't think there's a choice. If that makes any sense. I don't think I couldn't go back to that. There's no going back to that.
Yeah. There's no going back.
No.
Absolutely not. I mean, that's a funny thing. That's in that respect, it's not a choice at all, because once that appears to occur, and you see it, I'll just use loose language here, but you see it for what it is, and that it's not and is, so to speak. That the appearance of it loses its importance so much. But not only that, it just loses its solid base of a reality. It is and it isn't real. There's no way to go back to, oh, I'm experiencing time and space. I exist in this perspective of a linear chain of events. All of that is gone, and there's no going back to it. You can't. It's just not there. It appears to be there. It appears to be happening in that way, but there is no. It's not even proof. Is not the right word. It's not like you're trying to prove something. It's just simply not there. Then you can't. It's not like you can choose to believe it in another way.
That's right. Yeah. Did you go on a spiritual quest?
Well, yeah, I read the Bible, and see, for me, I immediately knew it wasn't science, and it wasn't spirituality. It's not God, but it's not physical either. And so I started reading. I say I read science books, but it's more theoretical physics, David Bohm and all of that. But like I said, I was 8 years old, so it's been a long road, long strange trip. But in the appearance of time and space, and the thing about it is that music, it's everything. Everything I can get my hands on. I'm more of a visual kind of guy. I can listen audio as well, but as far as reading, I'm a very slow reader, and because I want to understand exactly what I'm reading, especially with things like the Bible and stuff like that. Like, and the thing is that this permeates so much of society in America in particular. I said, I'm going to read this book just to see what they're talking about. And that, holy mother, man, it took me a long time to read it, but I was.
Do you find?
That's a weird book, man.
It is, but right. I mean, like I said earlier, there's no religion in my family, and I've got to say, from a real young age, I've never believed in it. I thought it was all of that old bullshit. But you go along with it at school and whatever. You sing all the hymns and hallelujahs and what have you. It was just rubbish. But since I'm going to call it a shift.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people don't like it. Well, I've got to call it something, and that sounds all right to me. I find that some of the quotes in the Bible come up in everyday situations. I don't say this, I say it to me, that makes more sense. And it's not the like, you should never read the Bible and take it literally, right? Not that some do. I see that underlying meaning of it, and there is so much in there. I'm not religious, but there's so much that resonates for me in different situations in life. It just comes up and I think, I see what that was written about. I see the sense in it. I don't know whether that happens for you or just think, well, shit.
The correlations with the Bible, you mean? Yeah, I mean, sure. There is. That was the most amazing thing about the Bible to me is that it's not about this, perfectly, perfect situation, this heaven, and where everything is, there's no pain or suffering or anything like that. No, it's literally about the pain and suffering of man. For me, it seemed like a reflection of the state of man. And this is how we look at each other in some respects, and in this hereafter and all of this other kind of stuff. But God himself is an extremely human type creature, it seems. In that it's almost what amazed me about it is that God does not claim to be right. He claims to be God, and God, he claims to have power enough to put you wherever he wants and do whatever he wants with you. And whether or not you love him or not is completely irrelevant. He loves the most repulsive people, like the King David. He either loves you or he doesn't. It has nothing to do with righteousness or right or wrong or good or bad. It has nothing to do with that. In fact, God I think I think the question was, how many people in the Bible is God responsible for killing? And the answer is all of them, except for I think it was 8 in Job, 6 to 12, depending on which version of Job you're reading. But Job and God make this bet that who's going to stay with you regardless. The devil says, well, these people only love you because you bless them. And he says, if you take their blessings away, they curse you. And he says, well, no, pick 1,000, and they bring it down to 1. And the devil picks Job. You can pick any one of these people you want, and I'll take their blessings away, and they won't stop loving me. And the devil picks Job, and and God allows the devil to kill his wives and his handmaidens and his children, and all of their livestock, and burn down and the whole 9 yards. Well, those are the only people in the Bible that the devil kills, or Lucifer kills, and that was on the express permission of God. So God, and as he says, I am the darkness and the light. I alone do these things. And he wants you to worship him regardless, out of fear. It's almost like a sadomasochistic thing where you are commanded to love something out of fear. And if you don't truly love it, you will be when Jesus comes along with meek and mild, he brings about heaven and hell. Like the Jewish Bible doesn't have a heaven or hell. It just has a place where you sleep with your ancestors. Whereas Jesus brings this everlasting torment. And if you don't truly love God through him, you will be burned for eternity. It's just a mind-boggling understanding, or to know that so many people believe this, like literally believe.
Yeah, that's the problem, isn't it? The literal believing of it. They should all read The God Delusion by Richard Dawkins. Have you read that?
I've seen links, and I love Dawkins. Yes.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah. But as far as so how about you? Do you believe in a God or anything like that?
No, absolutely not.
No, I don't either.
Absolutely not.
I think that's a dualistic idea. The whole idea of God.
I don't. Well, like I said, from an early age, I have no need for it. That's one thing. And second, there's no proof.
Yeah.
There's no proof. And I like what Richard Dawkins says. If people have asked him, well, what are you going to do? Being an atheist. I mean, I'll class myself as that, atheist. When you're, stood in front of God, what are you going to say to him? And he says, I'm going to ask him why he went to 6 lengths to hide himself.
It's true. Yeah. It's absolutely true. You have to believe a story without any kind of verifiable evidence whatsoever. And not only is it no evidence, it's bad evidence. It's really shoddy. It's like when people bring up ideas of proof of God, generally speaking, it's a very flimsy, very, very flimsy story. And you're like, this is your proof. Okay. It is like completely impossible to verify this is actually proof. This is not proof. This is belief. And to ask somebody to if I agree, if God exists, why would it be? It's just a ridiculous proposition. It doesn't make any sense at all.
I just think it's safety, isn't it? I mean, people feel safe having that belief because it's that old. It's because of the fear of death.
Yeah.
Which we talk about. There's no separation. And I suppose we can revert back to, well, there is, in the story, there's separation, and what separates man from, or what seems to separate man from the rest of, is that fear of death. We fear death because of that idea that there's a me in here that's going to die or could die at any minute, whereas animals and all that don't have that. Well, as far as we know. Perhaps they'd build religions if they did fear death, like we have done, and that's it. We fear death, and I think religion is just of all kinds, spirituality and different quests and this and that, just offer a comfort blanket that you can hide under, or hide away from that fact. That now, I know that this body's going to do it's dying. Yours is. Things die. Nothing's forever, right? Things break, things go. Everything physical disappears. It's not permanent. There's no permanence.
Yes.
But religion offers that hope, which again is bullshit.
Yeah.
That, oh yeah, this will drop away, but the real essence of who you are will carry on.
Yes.
It's a comfort blanket.
Yeah.
And that's it. And and for a long time, since I think I was about 20, I've not needed no comfort blankets. And I think that's while we talk like this, while we can have this sort of conversation, smiling, talking about death. I can talk about death all day long.
Yeah.
I find it amusing, entertaining. Although I still feel a certain amount of compassion for them that don't see it like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It seems
It offers false hope, doesn't it? Religion of all kinds offers false. There is only false hope. There isn't any other kind. All hope, I think, is false. Again, it's that next thing. It's I might get to it. I might.
It's ridiculous in many ways. But in respect to, like, some people will use the word. So now this is an interesting subject for me. I've been approached by several theists, deists as well, that they say that it's not God. It's not God as it is traditionally understood, and people just use the word God because it resonates with so many people, and this and that. And my response to that is, well, yeah, when you're using God as a word to comfort the seeker or the person seeking truth or whatever, and you use a word like God, and you start speaking in terms of a deity, you're lying in that you're telling a story. It's not a God. So when you say God, and a seeker hears God and thinks in terms of, at least in the Western sense, omnipresent, omnipotent, omniscient, or however you pronounce it. All of that, God is everything, and all of this kind of stuff. Well, it's so ridiculously paradoxical, because if God is everything, then what is he the God of? And if God is everything, that would mean that you are God. And if you are God, what are you the God of? And stuff like that. It's just it's ridiculously paradoxical if you want to talk about like some kind of being or a deity in that respect. God, as I read this book the other day, Maharish, I forgot his Maharesh. He says he explains God as more of an explanation for this apparent here now immediate experience. He is saying that there's nothing before it or after it, beside it, next to it. There's nothing other than this immediate experience. Yeah. But then he calls it God. This is God. So the individual loses themselves and that slip from identity and goes into that thinglessness, and he references that as God. That is the individual experiencing God or seeping into that one. So, on that level, I can kind of understand, this guy from India talking to people that can only think in those terms. Okay, yeah, I'll give you a pass. But in terms of a deity that is separate from you and is going to burn you in hell for doing right or wrong, that's completely, it's just preposterous.
Yeah. I think it's been used for control, isn't it?
Yeah, it truly is that. Our entire Western civilization is based on the Ten Commandments. Yeah, and loosely though, very loosely, and that whole idea that that there's somebody watching you every move you make is definitely beneficial for those in control, because you don't have to put a cop in everybody's house if everybody thinks that there's a God, that observes every thought they have. So obviously, that is a controlling.
I think for most religion, because it offers the hope of an afterlife, and that's the comfort blanket. Not necessarily the God bit and all the rest of it. It's that, if I do good in this life, then I'm guaranteed a spot, after this is all done, and that's it. There's the comfort. And offers that. And people need that. People, they grasp onto that, and I'm using it as well. People,
right?
I think, of which we're not. People,
right,
need that. They need that comfort to feel that this isn't it. This isn't all there is. There's more. Next, better.
Next, yeah. And the weirdest thing about that is, that is, it's such a sad, it's such a sad aspect of what appears to be, because this here and now, which is not a place or a time, is as it is for itself, expressing a you and a me having a conversation about these things, about these, the seeker of or the seeker of hope for the individual. Like, somehow God is going to explain all this and bring me up to his house, and we're all going to sing Kumbaya for eternity, which I mean, I don't know. I mean, whatever your idea of heaven is, it's funny in that you almost, it truly is a dampening of what is. It's almost, in my loose words here, it's almost disrespectful for the brilliant beauty that is this here and now. Whether you're in pain,
wow,
wow,
it's so wow,
you absolutely throw away, that beautiful, unexplainable, just jaw-dropping, awe-inspiring. Holy crap! Look at this, and there's no saying it, but to constantly, immerse yourself in this idea that somehow you're doing something wrong, and you need to do something to win the affections of this all-powerful being that can do anything it wants with you. It's almost sick, in a sense that a God could make you, make you faulty, make you broken, command you to be fixed beyond your ability to do so, and then torture you for eternity for not being what you're supposed to be, when he in fact knew exactly what you were when he made you. That would really mess with anybody's mind. That belief system, that cannot be healthy. It just can't be that, that believing in such a thing would make you happy.
You've only got to look at the amount of followers for that sort of thing, compared to, say, non-duality. If you get no one into this, no one wants to listen to that.
Oh, no.
You put on a video on YouTube and you might get 22 views. You
get billions of people around the world that enslave themselves And I'm using this, that appearance of billions of individuals enslaving themselves to that notion of an all-powerful deity that's going to judge them, and judges them constantly. And then you have a few thousand. I looked at Jim Newman's channel the other day, and he's got like 28,000 followers, something like that. And then he's probably the second most popular guy in the genre. Tony, yeah. And he's got like 28,000 followers. This is not a big pool. Somebody told me that the other day, man. If you don't change your dialect, you don't change the way your message is coming across, the messageless message. You're never going to be popular. You're never going to make it as a speaker. And I thought that was the funniest thing. It's like,
absolutely.
on so many levels, that is, evidence of that kind of thinking, that dualistic thinking, that I'm trying to do something, like I want to be popular, or I have a choice in this matter. But and that's what they say. No, you just have to change this or that. There's no choice here, and there's no going back.
Beware of any speaker that's got over 500 views. It's probably bullshit.
But that is funny, though. I was looking at Newman's stuff, and it's beautiful. He's absolutely amazing. And then you go into, and then I flip the channel, and it's got like maybe a couple of hundred views, or a few thousand views, and a couple hundred likes or something. And then I switch over to some ridiculous sitcom or something, and it's got like 5 million views. It's like everybody in the world wants to watch the sitcom. The comfort. And then you have these absolutely just mind-bending talks that for me, I find just beyond depth and experience. It's it's truly the subtle nuance of what cannot be spoken, and you'll have a few thousand if you are the top of the line. So there's no purpose to it. There's no reason for it. It just happens. It just appears to happen in a non-happening.
I mean, have you watched Eugene Krishnamurti?
Love him.
And what's your take on that?
Well, he. I give.
Sorry.
No, well, for me, I give those guys a little bit of I give the popular guys a little slack, because you're dealing with the general population by that point. I mean, you're dealing with J. Krishnamurti.
No. Which one are you talking about?
JK.
No, not him.
Which one are you talking about?
Uji.
Oh, Yuvi. I love Yuji. Oh yeah. I love Yuji. Yuji's great.
One.
I love that guy.
Not the other one.
No, Yuji was beautiful, man. I love that guy. I heard a woman ask him once if there was a God, and he just lost it on her. For 60 years, I've been answering this guy.
I've watched lots of that. What do you think his story was? Do you think?
I think he's. I thought he was right. I don't know. Right on a lot of things. There is no existence. There is no. I thought he was beautiful. I thought he was right. I loved his uncompromising style. Although his opinions about what is it? What did he call it? Conditioning. I don't agree with that. Other than I don't agree with the conditioning aspect. I don't think there's any conditioning happening. There's no one to be conditioned, but I do, and he refers to that a lot. And my take on that is, well, wouldn't that mean that there would be an individual with a memory, in an absolute sense? What you have here now is a person that appears to have been born. I go through these things, and here I am now, hoping for a future or whatever. But Krishnamurti, Yuji, was always saying that you are conditioned no matter what. And I disagree. On some sense, yes, the character is conditioned, but but I think I understand what he's saying to the character, to the individual. But then at the same time, he would say there is no self. So he must be talking about the character and not, a self. So yeah, a lot of people bring up conditioning, and like you are conditioned to be a certain way, and I disagree because, like, the story of my enlightenment happened when I was 8 years old. I wasn't conditioned for any of that. It didn't make any sense to me.
Yeah. Do you not think that the character that you are, the character,
I'm sorry, sir.
do you not think that the character is a condition itself?
Sure. Yes, to a certain degree, the character, I guess, is conditioned by its society. I mean, that would explain, like, the different religions around the world. If you're born in Afghanistan, you're going to be a Muslim. If you're, you're going to be all these different sects of religion all over the world. If you're born in America, more than likely, there's a good chance you're going to be a Christian. Blah 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 blah. It goes on and on and on. So yes, the character seems to be conditioned in that way. To a certain degree, yes.
What's not the personality? When you say the character, you mean the personality. Why, I like this and I don't like that, or why I, support this and I don't support that, or I accept this and I reject that, and all these different ways why I get angered about this and not that. Why it's easier for one person to love and another person, why it's easy to chat up girls for one, and why it's really bloody hard and like facing death to go and ask for a dance and whatever else, it all goes. But you don't think that's conditioning?
No, it is. It's a matter of, it's so difficult to talk about these things. But yes, the character is conditioned to a certain degree. I will, but like Yuji himself is not conditioned, right? He's a speaker. He was not conditioned by any particular thing. I think his switch happened when like at 49 or something.
Yeah.
But so he conditioned up to that point, and then there's no more conditioning. So in that way, it's kind of paradoxical. And it's not that I disagree, and I wouldn't mind looking at some links, but that always makes me think that you're either speaking to a seeker, the appearance of another, or you are trying to resonate with that ideal that there are others and they are conditioned, and you're telling them you are your conditioning. What you're saying is you need to empty your cup in order, so that if you want me to teach you something, but even though he was beautiful with the lack, there is no how, there is no why, there is how. I love that guy. But I think what he was referring to is, when he talked about conditioning, is you must empty your cup in order, if you want me to fill it. And so you have to let go of all that conditioning of how, why, what, where. All of those stories of answers for those questions are completely conditioning, and they're not true. And what he's saying is, if you want, there isn't, none of that exists. So and I think that's what he's getting at when he says that. And of course, UG to me is beautiful. But I think that's what he was referring to as when he told people they were conditioned. He was telling them to stop thinking the way you've been conditioned, if you want me to help you.
I'll tell you what else I've noticed as well is all the divisions that seem to permeate non-duality. There's so many, like, without mentioning names, because I disagree with them, so I don't want to bring their names up. But like certain teachers from India, there's their take on non-duality is totally different to what it is from here or there, or a Tony Parsons or a Jim Newman. Absolutely, there's no compromise. With Tony or Jim. With certain Indian sages, we call them. I think you probably know sort of who I'm alluding to. they still give practice. They still advertise that, listen, here's some steps.
Yeah.
Take these and you too can get to where I am, as if like there was somewhere that you could get to. And it's conflicting.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Well, as far as the modern message, or it's such a funny title, Nouveau Non-Duality.
Or neo-advaita.
Yeah. Neo-advaita, right? It's such a paradox. It's just a ridiculous title, but it's funny because yes, yeah, there seems to be with a lot of teachers this localized message, and that the individual teacher is saying something from their individual view, and they talk to different people with a certain style, and the message can vary seeker to seeker, situational to situation. And so some of the older teachers speak in these paradoxical terms of God and spiritualism and da 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 da, and it could be, they contradict themselves constantly. I think Gandhi was constantly contradicting himself, and but people loved him for it. It was literally ridiculous. He would literally contradict himself in one sentence. And, but the thing is, with the new Advaita crowd, again, paradoxically speaking, there seems to be a playbook almost, like, question A gets answer C, blah 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 blah. There's a lot of people that have this kind of oversimplified, it's just this, in that, like, yes, in a way it seems like it's more of a bunch of different people telling the same story, in that there is no story, but they do it on a almost like a regiment, and it could be like a menu, and or as I say, a playbook. But that is to the seeker. And I have to give people props where they are. I mean, though the messageless message will not, compromise on some core issues. There's a lot of flowery language out there. Tony Parsons himself. I love his stuff when he's just talking, when he's just not necessarily a Q&A, because there's only so many times I need to hear there is no self, and it's, that kind of thing. I don't need to hear a bunch of people asking the same questions over and over again, but when he's just riffing and freestyling, or his writings about how we were just describing, just this or the immediate experience, he can get, man, that's when he's shining the best, I think. The questions and answer thing can get really old really fast.
What do you think inspires people like Tony and Jim to actually speak?
I don't know, brother. I don't think anybody. The tracked answer, the playbook answer would be, it's just happening, not happening. It's just appearing as you have Jim and Tony both have their stories of enlightenment, and there's and they're vastly different, and they're beautiful. I would never have within this paradox, again, using this very loose language here, my story is way different from theirs, and I Tony Parsons, and the robes and the beads of his younger years, I would, I could never do something like that. I would never join an ashram and get robes and beads on. I would never do that. As soon as somebody even like mentioned anything about that, I would leave. I would be out. Anybody hands me beads, a certain colored robe to put me in a particular scale of understanding, or a haircut, or tell me what I can or cannot do in any way, shape, or form, I'm out. There's no way that's happening. So
I've never been the best conformist anyway.
No, I
Yeah.
simply can't do it. I mean, I loved it. And I think that was a big turnoff for me growing up. Everybody asked, did you read all of these books? And no, it was
No.
more a science and spiritual thing, in that I will look at a teacher or something like that, and once I grab his message, okay, I'm gone, and
Yeah.
I'll understand it, but I'm
Yeah.
out. But the
Yeah.
thing is that to sit and follow someone, that to me was just the antithesis of what I was talking about.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
I experienced. There is no following anyone, no way, and there's no point in going to a school or to a teacher that would put beads around me, or a
Yeah.
robe or a haircut, or tell me what I can and cannot do. And that is not, that to me it was so odd that 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 even, it didn't compute. So it really turned me away from a lot of these speakers as I was growing up. It was the exact opposite of
Yeah.
what I
Same.
had
Yeah.
experienced.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly the same as that. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
then you have the paradox of Tony Parsons coming through all of that, and now creating this nouveau non-duality thing, where he has all these he's basically changed the format of non-duality in that respect of a messageless message. And so and it's beautiful, it's a beautiful thing, and I'm glad. I think there's a reason why I started resonating with him when I did, which was not very long ago. But I mean, those guys at one time did follow other people, and there's no, they don't try to deny it, and it's not like a bad thing. It's just not something that I was gonna do. I would rather surf and put my life on the line and get that moment of, happening, not
Absolutely.
happening, that
Yeah.
that timeless, spaceless stopping
Yeah.
of everything. But there again, I don't want to sound as if I am. It's just not the. It's the truth of my story. It's just not something I would have done to follow a speaker ever.
You've obviously spoke to other surfers. Have they all had them same experiences as you had? And they talk about the same thing?
Yeah, and it's almost like a masochistic situation, where a masochistic insofar as a seeker almost wants that hard line. No, there is no you. No, 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 no. Just chop you off at the knees constantly, and it's like this thing where if you're going to ask them, they're just going to give you reasons why you shouldn't be asking, why you're asking the wrong question, and it's ridiculous. It's a farce to ask somebody else what the self is experiencing, or what it is completely ridiculous. You can't. I don't know. There is no I here. I cannot, there is no objective truth in any kind of absolute sense. The absolute being the no thing that can't be described. And there are no words for that. So in order to ask somebody else, you are basically making it more contracted. Like you are saying, I exist here and I am asking you a question. You're wrong from the outset. You cannot ask a correct question. Eugene would say, there is no how.
Question.
So every time you ask one of these guys a question, you're leaving yourself open to get chopped off at the knees, because in fact, there is no you. So you cannot ask another person what reality is, because there's no you to ask it. So it's completely impossible. And so to ask a question from one of these guys is almost the exact opposite of what they're teaching you, or what they appear to be teaching you, is that there are no questions, there is no answer. This mystery is for its own sake. So if I ask you, so how do you feel during the week? Like you're having these meetings, right? And you want, let's say ask Jim Newman or Andreas Mueller. So when you woke up this morning and you brushed your teeth, how did you feel about this or that or the other? Well, you're already wrong. there is no me that woke up and brushed my teeth, right? And that's what they're going to tell you. That's what they're going to say. And so to keep asking the same question is to misunderstand what they're saying, in that there is no you to ask. And that's the simple answer, that this is not a place and a time and a space and separation. There is no me observing other. We are the expression of the totality as a couple of guys having a conversation, but neither one of us exists in the absolute sense. And so there is
nothing. There's nothing to be learned.
And some people might say that, well, that's a belief or that's a concept, but no, you're missing it, because there is no subject or object or concept, because from the outset, there is no you there. The idea that you could think or have a belief is predicated on the assumption that you have a source for your thought. And so without that source or that foundation, what you have is just this story. It just emerges from nothing and goes to nowhere. So for to ask somebody else, what is this, is to try to give them some kind of foundation in a reality. And it's just not the case. It's fascinating. I love it.
Oh yeah, I know it is. Have you got any plans on trying to get Tony or Jim?
I got Andreas.
I noticed. I watched it.
But I didn't get I think Jim returned my call. And he asked me where I'd publish it. He's waiting to see, I think, and which I understand completely. He's busy. I don't know. I might have missed his email. I don't know. But he's got, God knows, Jim's got so many people asking him to do stuff. But I did ask him, and I would love it. I would be grateful beyond measure if he would give me that kind of bump, and that to allow me to have a conversation with him under any format. I would jump at that. Same with Tony Parsons. If Tony Parsons gave me the time of day, I would jump at that under any condition.
I think you can phone them though, can't you? I think they're open to phone calls. But is that again for someone to ask them questions? I
don't know. Can you?
Yeah, if you watch Tony, it says phone them.
Oh, you could call him. Just ask him questions. Yeah. I guess I could go like that. Would that would be something. Well, that would be a good way to do it. Buy a ticket, go to one of the retreats or whatever they call them, and ask them there. That might get me in. But yeah, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, Jim is the three that I like the most are Andreas, Jim, and Dave, Tony, because their ability, and there's several more, but those are my three favorite. I want to say, I can't believe he's the English fella. I forgot his name. Sorry about that, English fella. But in any case, it's their ability to stay on message, and Tony, of course, for so many decades, doing these things, in that's just so impressive to me that he's literally, he's got it nailed down pretty good. And like I said, my favorite is when he's just riffing about his immediate experience. I love that. But Jim is amazing. His ability to not only field questions but just to speak is I love it. There's nothing there's nothing I can say about that. But I would have to say, as far as an individual speaker is concerned, I think I love Andreas the most. I mean, he's the best. I love him, man. He's so easygoing. He's so kind and patient. That it's I
think Tony it can come across a little bit. He doesn't suffer fools gladly.
Yeah, he's brutal. He can be brutal, man, and I don't blame him.
Which I think is his quality, isn't it? I think that's his quality.
I think you're right about that. There's a certain amount of truth to that, in that when they are brutal, when they are harsh, I've seen Jim cut people down to shreds.
Yeah.
Harsh, brutal.
Yeah.
But it's weird. It's like they come back for more. They want it. It's this masochistic thing where they just, and you put the speaker in that position of a sadist, in that there is no you. I mean, you have to and every now and again, like UG would literally explode on people sometimes. And anybody, I saw UG on a radio show, or I heard him on a radio show once, and some lady came on and said, well, I've been to this ashram, I studied with this guy and that guy and this, and I've been doing this, and she's talking about all her travels, and UG goes, UG says, you are showing off about this thing that doesn't exist. You think you are sounding intelligent, but you're just a loudmouth girl that needs to shut up. And I was just like, wow. And the girl had it. The girl was like, yes, you're right. And I was like, wow. The next guy says, the next guy comes on and he starts talking about quantum physics, and he's like going on and on and on about, quantum physics and how it relates to existence and stuff. And and he just cuts him off and says, he goes, good luck with that, man. Click. Good luck with that. Pick. Who is your favorite?
What, from today?
Yeah.
To be honest, Howard, I haven't got a favourite. I don't. I haven't got one.
Yeah.
You
have no favorite.
I've enjoyed little bits of a lot of different talks, but again, like I said earlier, that skepticism in me, I think it tarnishes everyone I listen to. There's always fault, and I think,
you've already crossed the line, right?
The thing is, there's no, I don't feel a need to have to watch them. If I'm on YouTube and I'm listening to music and I've had enough of that, and a Tony Parsons talk will come up, I'll click on it, and same old. So after 5 or 10 minutes, I'm elsewhere and I'm surfing,
Selfie. I love that.
I like Tony. I like Jim. I've not seen much of Andreas, but he just, like you say, comes across as a nice, happy, jolly little fella.
Yeah.
He's got a nice face and a nice smile. Yeah. I find that attractive, but what they're talking about, I don't know. I'm more entertained by the people asking questions. That's what entertains me. So, what's my favourite is the audience.
Yeah,
that's where the magic is.
That actually is. It is funny. There's, you're right. Paradoxically speaking, as I just said, that there's only so many times you can hear the question, but at the same time, it's almost like that is the funny. That's the entertaining part. Is the questions that come across. And they can answer it 10 times in a row, and the 11th person will come and ask it again. And just ask it over and over, and it's funny. You're right.
Was the other English guy? Was it Richard? Was his name Richard Sylvester or Tim?
Richard Sylvester? Yeah. He's good too. Yeah.
Tim Cliff.
Same place. Richard. He's a great guy, and I love his. I like his take on like evolution and stuff like that, because all of that goes away, right? Evolution and stuff. But I like what he said. He goes, but I still like the genre of it. I love the subject of it. It's just not evolution as it appears. And so, that's something that, it took him a little bit to, he helped me in that way. And then I was thinking the same thing, like, I love geology. I love certain aspects of the history of the universe, science, theoretical physics and stuff like that. I love that stuff. It's just not actual. And so, but when I heard Sylvester talking about it, I said, you know what? He helped me decide, just because I'm not looking for an answer, but I love the questions. I love all of the questions. The more you look at it as a question answer, the less it gives you, but it'll give you these subtle nuances about what cannot be spoken of, and it will show you that science negates itself, and all things negate themselves. So there is no answer, and so Richard Sylvester helped me very specifically in that way, that that I could look at evolution as a science and just be interested in it without having to look for it. It has nothing to do with an answer. There are no answers, but it has to do with the question, just like you were saying, the audience and the question is the fun part. The question is the fun part. And so, so he very specifically helped me in that. One thing that he did, he's one of the speakers that I have talked to once. I called him from the Nothing Channel. Emerson was allowing Sylvester, and I forgot his girlfriend's name, but both of them were doing a talk, and he said I was going to try to talk to him about something kind of difficult to talk about, thinglessness or whatever, and the lack of experience, but the appearance of experience and how that goes. And he says, well, if you're going to deny experience, I got nothing to say to you. And I'm like, and now it was a pretty, pretty rough, right. And I was like, well, I'm not denying experience. I'm just saying that experience doesn't exist as it appears. And, and he kind of cut me off kind of short there, but he was, but so in that respect, I kind of like talking about how it's not actually experience and that kind of thing. I like getting into what is and what cannot be known, and and those subtle nuances, and I want to explore all of that kind of thing. But I haven't been doing it for 30, 40 years like Richard has. So I'm just one little guy asking a question. I understand how you're going to answer it in different ways, but to say, that there is experience, and to say that you don't want to talk about a lack of experience is to make a claim, A, and B is to say that you are more interested in what can be convenient rather than what is or is not happening, and so if I were to have one little criticism from, but it's not a criticism. I mean, I love the guy. I love his style, but he kind of shut me down on that real quick. He didn't want to talk. He didn't want to talk about the finer nuance about what could not be spoken of. So he wanted to talk about what was easy to talk about, and I didn't want to do that. So.
Does he buys into the whole experience?
The funniest thing about getting into these topics of conversation, there's been it's completely different when you actually talk to somebody in the face to face rather than watching the links. Watching the links and stuff like that, stuff that's edited already and all of that kind of jazz. You get a completely different rendition of that person than what that person is. I had a guy shut me down the other day. I mean, I thought he was, Mr. Enlightenment. I thought this guy was, he was on, everything I had seen about him was fascinating to me. And then I got to talk to him, and he was the opposite of that. I mean, he got offended almost by the suggestion that you don't exist, and I was shocked. He not only stopped the interview, but he blocked me as a friend on Facebook and stuff.
Yeah, but that's nothing new, Howard, is it? We experienced. Here we go with the experience thing. We experienced that on Facebook.
Yeah,
I mean, that's a daily occurrence with me. I'm getting all sorts of reactions to it, and then most are negative. I've got to say, and blocked and unfriended and all the rest of them. Some of these you've been friends with like for 3, 4, maybe 5 years, and providing you're sort of blowing smoke up their arse until you question something, and then wow. it all burns down.
Yeah, I find it fascinating because, and you know, the funny thing about it is that guy he was the most, you know, like the flowery language guy, you know, with the he was so, you know, he talked about kindness and understanding and all these other kind of things, and but as soon as as soon as he was challenged in any way, he immediately ran.
I
And
mean, I've seen some of your stuff, and I'm the same. I can use flowers with the best of the florists, but when we're talking about the nitty gritty, all that shit can go, and I'm never offended by someone questioning anything. The thing is, like, I don't make claims, and it's not that I'm careful not to. There's nothing to claim. There's nothing to claim. So I don't. You'll notice that I don't. Well, I might put a few things up, opinions, but I don't make claims. I don't say this is that, and you can hang your hat on that. You don't either.
Well, yeah, and you know another thing about what you were just saying, this conversation is one of the best conversations I've had so far. And the thing is that, you know, amongst many beautiful conversations, but the reality is that people ask me, you know, why, you know, who is this person or who is that person? And I say, you know, the thing is,
they'll certainly say that about me.
why record these like ridiculously, you know, offhand conversations with people that truly nobody knows who they are. I said, well, nobody knows who I am anyways, and there is nobody here, blah 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 blah. Aside from all of that, the reality is the most profound things are said by the most unexpected people in the most unexpected places. It's not the most popular guys in the world that are blowing me away. It's the people that nobody knows. And I learned really quick. I'm just going to report everything because I'm talking to you, and you and I have touched on some great stuff here. I mean, there's no, it's no big deal, but it's not, there's some good stuff in there. And what I'm saying is,
the thing is, Howard, there's no intention behind. When I got in touch with you the other day and said, what's great about it is all the unknown faces that I've probably spoke to for the last 10 years on there.
Exactly.
And we can put a face to that right and think, oh yeah, you do look like what you're right, or you're not quite, all that. You make these jokes, but really you're not a comedian, are you? And all this sort of stuff.
And that's the thing about the popular speakers, and that so let's say like Spira or whatever, or Ed Barker or whatever, all these they're speaking to the masses as they appear. And so it just gets so watered down eventually that it really depends a lot. But they're beautiful. I'm not saying they're not. What they're saying is amazing and great and all that stuff. But when you get somebody to talk to an individual like myself, I gotta be honest with you. The most beautiful conversations are the ones that have no agenda whatsoever. I mean, there is no tomorrow. We're just riffing here. And there's no attachment, no book to sell, no idea that I need somebody to know. I mean, there's nothing here that's asking for anything. It's genuine in the moment. And you can go for hours and just get this like regular just mumbo jumbo, but then there'll be that moment where bam, something will happen, and it's like, that was beautiful. And it was just beautiful. And by no one, for no one, to nothing, for nothing. And it's just amazing on its own right. And it could be from the most just obscure place. And
it's barroom talk, isn't it? Two guys having a beer, having a chat, putting the world to rights, and that's it. I think they're the best.
And I find that I resonate with that. I resonate with that mostly, and I have a feeling that there are times when some of the popular speakers feel kind of trapped. They're it's almost like they have to
preparation, and there's
yeah, you know, there's books to be written, there's things to sell, and there's all these people relying on you to make money. I mean, there's the publishers and the promoters of the venues and the blah 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 blah, and then you have the people coming to ask you questions, and you know, there's a certain amount of, you know, I mean, I can't imagine that a speaker just doesn't go. You know, I just want to go water skiing or something. You know, I just want to enjoy myself for the day. You know, and yeah, I think there's a certain amount of you know, I don't know, governor switch on the throttle, if you will.
Absolutely. It's always the same old format all the time. And whereas this, because it's unscripted, unformed, it can go wherever it wants to go, and that there's more freedom. And yet they're talking about freedom. This is the first time freedom's even been mentioned.
The difference between shooting a bullet and throwing it, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
But you know that, you know, that's the weirdest on the weirdest level. You know, it's one of those things like a person might see that and say, "Oh, that's just a loser talking." You know, you know, if you could have that popularity, would you take it? And I have to be honest with you, man. I probably would. Yeah, I probably would. And I probably would because I would see, but I have no illusions about what it is. I mean, I really like not having to do anything I don't want to do. You know what I mean? I don't, but I'm in that position. I don't have to do anything. And the speaker, I just can't imagine that it's not like a job sometimes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't want to work.
You just want to be lazy, yeah?
Yeah. If I could be popular and do it as I please when I wanted to, then sure, I'd love to do that. But yeah, could you imagine having the dates and the times and you got to kick out another book, and you know, now you got house payments and all the different people that are relying on you. There's a certain amount of you know, it's contrary to the message itself.
It's like living a hypocritical life, isn't it? I mean, you're talking about freedom all day, yet you've got none.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And that's funny, you know, that is the funny. You reach this moment of like, it's just freedom is even a cage, because
and yet there's probably sleeping for a day off.
Well, the freedom is denotes a thing that could be caged in the first place. So, but and so to even just to even navigate that whole space would be interesting to me. But I don't know. I've never said no to much. You know, if somebody asked me for if I could do a book deal or something like that, I might do it, but I think I would be terrible at it. I think it would be claustrophobic. You know what I mean? Like you're just like, I have to write this book. I don't want to have to do this. You know.
Have you never thought about writing a book, Howard?
Huh?
Have you never thought about writing a book?
Yeah, I've had a couple people approach me about that, and sure, I the way I do it is this: if you want to put my stuff together and put it in a book and like edit it and like that, then sure, I'll sign off on it. But I don't want to have to sit there and write the book. You know, I don't want to write something from A to B. You know, I could, I guess, but I would have to have a ghostwriter. I'd have to have somebody typing that sucker up for me. I'd have to have an editor. But I've got a friend of mine that's reading that's doing that right now. He's got a couple 100 pages, and he says it's a lot harder than you might think.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, like when this first arose, I'll use another word. I couldn't stop writing. I was writing, and I must have had that. And in the end, when I got to it, I thought, why the fuck did I do all that? Because who's it for?
Yeah,
What's it for? What purpose can it serve?
Yeah, right.
When I was doing it, I thought this is this is going to rival the Bible. This is going to go, this is going to blow up. And it did when I put it on the fire.
Wait a minute, you didn't publish it?
No.
You're killing me. See,
No,
this is what Tony Parsons told my friend the other day.
Oh.
See, my friend is this guy's great. He gave me my first. Emerson from Non-Duality gave me my first interview, and he knows Tony Parsons, and he was saying that he was he wrote like 100 pages and then he threw it away. He says, this is trash. I'm just dumping it. He threw it in the fire, and he told Tony Parsons about it. And Tony says, there's always editing. I mean, there's no need to throw it away. Yes, as soon as the words are spoken, they just it's like trying to catch the wind with a butterfly net. That just doesn't exist. But as soon as they're spoken, just let them be what they are in that moment. And so you're recording that process. And I kind of, as much as I have done what Emerson has done, which is, throw pages, I used to just write poetry and just leave it I would just leave it in random places. And now, it's every now and again, sometimes I wish I'd put that poem or something. But I like what Tony's saying in that regard. If you're going to write it, just let it be and don't judge it, because at that moment you wrote it. Okay, you were feeling a particular kind. You was putting things to paper, and you were feeling a particular right. But then later you go back and read it, and you're like, and you're your own worst critic. You're like, this is garbage. This is crap. But you didn't actually write it. You're not actually reading it. It's not actually happening in time and space. It's just a story of somebody critiquing themselves. So keep it around, even if it is a gut shot. Like, for example, Mark, I'm telling you, man, when these first few interviews I had, my first interview is a train wreck. It's an absolute train wreck.
Right.
With Emerson, it's a nightmare to watch for me. I'm like, oh my God, what are you saying, dude?
Who is that?
I mean, what is this? I didn't even know I had no idea what I was talking about. Nothing. It was coming out of nowhere, and like I was saying things that I have never said. I was like, what is this? Is this crap? And it's painful to watch. But there's a few interviews that I've done that I love the people I'm talking to. But I sound like a complete idiot. I am stammering over myself, and it's ridiculous. I'm so nervous and stammering, and but I put them out.
And how is that now?
Well, people will ask me, how are you doing this? What are you doing? And I'm just doing it. I'm putting them out as they are, as ugly as some of them are, as blemished, as brutal, as just horrible as some of these are. I'm putting them out as they are.
Well, you can add this one to the list.
Well, this one's actually good to give you an idea. Of how some of the bad ones are. Like you said, oh, we'll probably be on and off in 10 minutes. Here we are. What is it? I don't know. How long it's been.
Well, I know it was light when we started, and it's dark now. So that gives you an idea.
Well, there you go. So, and the thing is that nobody might not, not many people are going to see it, whatever. It doesn't matter. It's just a nice conversation. Whereas, but the Emerson said, I did the same thing when I first started. It was just brutal. But now I look back at what it was, and you could see the progression of how it worked. But to put it out as it is for its own sake, to answer that question, if somebody asks, how are you doing it, or how did you like if I do it for 10 years and somebody asks me that question, I'll just say, look at my first links. I mean, it is what it is. You come out of the gate kind of stumbling and fumbling, and you're all over the place, and you don't know, you don't know what you're doing or how you're nervous. It's weird. People are asking you questions that, like, it's so different from the Facebook. Facebook is, you can edit it, you can think about what you're going to say. Whereas in this, it's real time. Like I talk too much. Like I know I'm talking too much, and yet I can't stop talking.
That part of it makes me feel great, because like today, I thought, well, we're going to speak with Howard today. God knows what we're going to talk about. And I've never been the biggest conversationalist ever. 5-10 minutes with anybody because I've really got nothing to say. And this might sound a bit pig-headed, but most of what people want to talk about, you know, the everyday life, politics, sport, this, that, and that, I couldn't give a shit about that. I'm not interested in it. So I'm not good in conversation. I'll say hello and how are you? Done, pretty much. So I was a little bit beating myself up about it today. But wow, you yourself have made it easy because you talk a lot.
Yeah, I talk a lot.
So you're filling all them gaps, all them awkward pauses. I think I'll be all right because I'm going to have to butt in to actually speak anyway.
Hey, Mark, the one criticism I have gotten from my the links that coming out of the gate is that some of them are too long. My interviews should be cut to an hour, and I should do multiples. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it off there.
Yes.
And then can I ask you, like, maybe in a month or so we do it again?
Absolutely.
Mark, I love you, brother.
I'd be upset if you didn't ask.
Absolutely, man. I say, you know, give it a couple of weeks and give me a call if you feel like talking anytime, man. Give me a holler.
Will, man, yeah.
Let's do it again, Mark.
Yeah. I've loved it. Love you as well, man.
Absolutely, brother.
Yeah.
Thank you, man.
Cheers, Howard.
Cheers, right back at you, man.
Brother.
Absolutely, man. Yeah. We'll talk to you next time.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Awesome.
All right,
thanks, man.
Yeah, you're welcome. Anytime.
Right back at you. See you later.
Yeah, love you, man.
Love you. Awesome. Thanks, brother. Love you. There we go.